Good day, podcast community. This is PeteKane here, Podcast Pete and lifestyle coach. We have a special guest on the show. I always love having our younger generation on so we can learn as we see the path that our guests are on. So, Haley, for the ones that don't know you, tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and who you serve, and then we'll get into our podcast.
Yeah, so I'm Haley Price. I work with Rescuing Hope. We're a nonprofit dedicated to eradicating sex trafficking in America. So we serve survivors of sex trafficking. The three things we do is we educate potential victims and first responders, we enlighten the community, and we empower survivors and advocates.
I love that. Now, we hear things and we don't always understand them. So what would be the one thing you can think of as we get that people misunderstand about what you do and how you're serving the community of sex trafficking and rescuing our people out there?
Yeah, so one of the main misconceptions is one that I actually held before I started as well. Sex trafficking is way more common than people think. It's not as, I don't want to use the word dark as the movies portray, because a lot of the times it's much more casual than that. However, it is also way darker and it goes way deeper than anybody could imagine. And it's happening in all of our backyards and all of the communities. So a lot of people don't recognize how common it is and just how often it's happening.
Okay. What would you say, like somebody that is as young as you are, and I don't know your exact age, but I'm going to guess you're a few years younger than myself. How did you get started with such an important thing that's happening out here and the service part of it, which sometimes people don't get till later in life? But what made you kind of lean into what you're doing?
Yeah, right place, right time. So to be completely honest, before I started working with Rescuing Hope, I was in the fitness industry, and I was on LinkedIn trying to stalk somebody who applied to work for me. And when I was on LinkedIn, I saw the job posting at Rescuing Hope. I have always had a servant's heart. I've always wanted to work with people. Social work has always been a field that I've wanted to be in. So when I saw that job posting, I kind of applied just on a whim. And I was like, you know what? The worst they can say is no. So that's how I got started, literally just being on the right website at the right time.
Wow. So what was it, when you stepped into it,
Yeah.
what was the hardest thing mentally that you had to deal with? Because you are in, a dark part of society, what's going on. How did you overcome that part of just getting into something a lot different than the fitness industry?
Yeah. So when I first started, one of the main things that I really had to overcome was in learning about sex trafficking and exploitation, you learn where it happens. So hotels stopped being something fun and vacation-y for me, and all of a sudden I couldn't drive by a hotel without feeling sick to my stomach. Knowing what was happening in there, or what potentially was happening in there, was a lot. So that was the main thing I had to overcome. Like, okay, this is happening, but we're doing something about it. I am now directly doing something about it. So overcoming it, I don't want to say it was easy, but knowing that what I was doing was making a difference and I wasn't just complicit in knowing that it was happening, that really helped me overcome.
That's so good. What do you think? Like, I'm a firm believer that we have to recognize what we do best. We have to always lean into that. And I see it happening because, I when Susan came and you came to Rotary, it was so refreshing that you guys came together. And that when somebody works in exactly what they're gifted to do, they get in a rhythm and a flow. How are you supporting? And did you have to learn how to do that role, or was there something that in your past that kind of prepared you for it?
That's a really great question, Pete. My faith leads me in everything that I do.
Hmm.
So I'm a firm believer that if I'm meant to do something, it will naturally come to me. And that's how I feel this role came to be. In working with Susan and learning everything that I know now, of course, there were tons of things that I had to learn and things I had to be trained on. But I really believe that it was a gift that I could just naturally step into this role. So it wasn't so much learning how to support her and do my role, it was doing what I was called to do.
Hmm. That's so good. How do you turn it off? I mean,
Mhm.
because we have to get good sleep. We have to be aware of how, because you understand that being in the fitness business, if we don't like work on ourselves and
Mhm.
we don't have that energy, we don't have that stamina to really go. There's a lot of things that go into that, but how do you kind of turn it off and recharge Haley's battery?
Yeah. Well, every day my drive home is my decompression time. That's kind of my reset time. So I've got a 30-minute drive from home or from the office to home. So that is where I really get in the mindset of, okay, what happened at work stays at work. Now I'm going home and now this is Haley's time. So I'm in my car, I'll listen to worship music if I want to. Sometimes I ride home in silence. If it's been a day, I just give myself that time to decompress. And then when I get home, I do things that I enjoy doing. So, I cook a lot, I read a lot. I'm in my house. I've been redecorating my house for like 2 years at this point just because I like doing it. So I do things that I enjoy. You have to learn to really compartmentalize, especially doing work like this.
Hmm. I had a couple with my church, and I would always notice because they had their newborn, and probably now is 6 months or something
Oh.
close to that. And I would always notice when they came in, they had an unusual joy that was different than most. And then when I had them on my podcast, we were talking and we were having a good conversation. And I realized that when I asked him, they don't have a TV. They don't,
Mm.
he's not on social media. And there's a couple other things. He's very creative, and that. And in society today, the average person watches 4 hours of TV and scrolls like 2.5 hours of TikTok videos. So they're consuming other people's lives instead of
Mm.
creating their life. You said some things about creating that I want to just go a little bit deeper on. So, how do you stay creative versus what kind of almost pulls us into that consumption mindset? How does Haley stay creative to really kind of get the most out of creating your life and having the impact that you're having?
Yeah, God's grace. Because it's definitely super easy to get sucked in. I'm guilty of watching, a million hours of TikTok and scrolling for hours on end. But I've noticed I do things that fulfill me. So when they call it doom scrolling. That's
Mhm.
not fulfilling at all. That's just wasting my time and rotting my brain.
Mhm.
So I do things that fulfill me so I can stay creative. So like I said, I read a lot. Um, I have again been redecorating my house for 2 years. So I do the things that fulfill me and make me happy. Doing the work that I'm in, as dark as it can be, it is very fulfilling knowing that, I'm making a difference.
Mhm.
So there's always going to be a positive outcome in everything that I do. So knowing that and leaning into that really does help and keeps me away from that overconsumption.
Mm. Do you think that because that I've heard this, and it's off by a little bit, maybe that the
Hmm.
first 7 years of our life does shape our brain to how our behavior happens later.
Mm.
Do you think that if that is true, and I've heard a lot about it, how was your first 7 years that you remember, and how do you think that might have prepared you for what you're doing right now?
That's another really great question. So when I was a kid, I was running barefoot through creeks and I was such a not wild child, but I was riding my skateboard in my ballet shoes. So I was I did what I wanted when I wanted.
Yeah.
So that definitely bleeds into who I am now. I'm not riding my skateboard anymore in my ballet shoes, but you know, just having that free spirit is definitely still a part of who I am. I
Mhm.
have fun. I That's how I get through my days. I Life is not serious and it's meant to be lived. So I carry that with me. That I was raised that way and that's who I am today.
That's so good.
Yeah.
You mentioned drinking coffee out on the porch before we started.
Yeah.
Like, do you have a routine or when you start the day, is there certain things you do that prepares you for the day?
Yeah, so every morning I wake up, and this comes from having a background as a dancer, but every morning I wake up and I stretch because I believe if I move my body, everything will just stay in motion. So I get up and I stretch. After I get ready for work, I come downstairs and I drink my coffee here and then I get my cup to go. So my mornings are slow, and that's when I really allow myself to just be with myself. I have my quiet time with the Lord in the mornings as well. So that's when I just kind of breathe and I get in the right mindset for the day. If I know what kind of day I'm having, like, okay, this one's going to be a tough one, but we got this. Or if it's going to be a great day, then I'm moving a little faster and I'm ready to get out the door. But yeah, so my mornings consist of waking up, stretching, drinking my coffee, and then just preparing my mind for what
Mm,
the day has.
that's so good. We have that phone that
Yeah.
we have right by us. I had two hernia surgeries in 1 year.
Mm,
So I was in the waiting room and they're usually older people.
mhm,
The first time I was in there, I was counting the people around the room, and there was 18 people in the room. 16 of them were glued to their phone for
mm.
absolutely the whole time I was in there. It was about 30, 40 minutes.
I believe it.
How do you, because we always say like, oh, the younger generation, they're tech savvy, they're on their phone, but it goes all the way up to whatever age. How do you separate that digital, because it is, again, it pulls us in because
Mhm.
we have it right with us, it's texting, it's doing all kinds of things. How have you been able to kind of put that in proper perspective so it doesn't consume you?
Well, I'll be honest, I'm still learning how to do that.
Mhm.
Um, but again, like I said, I've noticed that just getting sucked into social media and being on my phone, it's not fulfilling. And
Mhm.
you'll notice an hour's gone by and it feels like 10 minutes because you've just wasted that much time scrolling and looking at stuff and consuming other people's lives, comparing yourself. So just reminding myself, like I said, life is not serious and social media isn't real.
Yes. How do you, yes, I love what you just said because they say social media and there's no real social about it. It's just media.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I was in it. When I first got in it, my daughter now is a little bit older, but she knew I loved marketing, and she said, "Dad, you ought to get it. You ought to check out this Facebook." And I said, that's for kids. I'm not interested in that stuff." But when I saw the ability, because all our family is not in this town, so I saw all my cousins and nephews and nieces. I was able to kind of all of a sudden see, oh my gosh, I know what they're doing. I can be more involved in their life. But I did also notice that it was pulling me into it. I
Mhm.
was doing that as an occupation for a number of years. I don't do it now, and I haven't in probably 3.5 years, and my brain is kind of healthier. My brother even said, "Man, you're sharper after you had the stroke than before." And I think it was getting all that media out of my system. So
Yeah.
you said you're working on it. Tell our viewers, I would love to hear, because I'm open for ideas. What is Haley doing
Hmm.
that she's working on to kind of, because the brightest minds in the world, these are PhDs, and they're paid to get our attention. How are you doing it? Just give us a little idea of what you're working on to help you in that journey.
Yeah. So one of the things that's really helped me is I can't remember where I read this, but there was something that mentioned when you look at a photo for more than a couple seconds, you've looked at it longer than it took to take the picture. So, you go on social media, you look at somebody's picture at a dinner for their birthday. You're
Hmm.
looking at it for 5 minutes. It didn't take 5 minutes to take that photo. I've wasted more time looking at this than they took posting this. It
Hmm.
really puts it in perspective because it makes me think like, okay, what am I doing? Why do I care this much about what other people are doing with their lives? So that perspective really does help. Now, of course, I love keeping up with my friends. And like you mentioned, family, like, okay, I can see what they're doing now and keeping up. But at the same time, you're just getting a snapshot. You're only getting a couple seconds out of somebody's day. If you really want to know what somebody is up to and you really care about that person, pick up the phone and call.
Hmm.
So that is definitely the mindset that I am trying to really lean into. But my generation, we are the worst about these things. So it's an adjustment.
I love that, because I have a friend of mine. We're the same age, and we talk about that actual conversation
Hmm.
you have with people. And then I get up real early, so in the afternoon, a lot of times, just about every day, I'll make phone calls on the porch so I can hear the birds, I can see the outside, and just
Yeah.
have that connection and that energy that we get from actual talking to people. And so it is so kind of, it's almost like it recharges my batteries when I'm
Hmm.
having those conversations. And that, with two daughters, they would always text, and I would just call them, because
Hmm.
I just I'm a more of a conversation. But it did kind of, you do fall into that. Well, I don't have time to talk, so I'll just text. But if we don't allow ourselves time for that human connection, we do feel it in other ways. So
Yeah.
what would you say, like, you're talking to somebody like myself who's a little bit older, what would you say? Because I love how you say you pick up that phone. What could you say that, did you always believe that, or is that something that you now are doing on a basis that you have felt better about it? Just give us a little idea of what that means to actually have those conversations.
Yeah. Well, I've always felt that phone calls are valuable. When I was a little kid, I'd come home from school and I'd pick up the house phone and I would dial my grandma, my dad's work. When my mom was at work, I'd call her job and can I talk to my mom? Like I was blowing everybody's phones up. So I have always been that way. I've always enjoyed it. I've always
Mhm.
preferred it just because texting, you don't know somebody's tone when they say something. You don't know how they meant something. So I prefer to actually hear somebody and have a conversation. But what really made me start doing that again as an adult was you mentioned your daughter's texting you. Um, in February of 2023, I texted my dad asking for our Hulu password. He didn't respond. I had seen him hundreds of times. We had talked on the phone. In July of that year, he answered my text with the Hulu password. And I read it and I was like, okay, I've actually changed the password since then because
Yeah.
this I texted you that 6 months ago. So that's what really made
Yes.
me realize, okay, I could have gotten this answer back in February when I wanted it if
Yeah.
I just picked up the phone.
That is beautiful. But yeah, that is, because same thing. somebody will say in my family, well, I texted you that. And then I better not text two texts at once because you obviously you're not seeing one of them, but it is, you get so many texts, it's easy to forget after a period of time.
Okay.
Reading is down in our culture. How are you leaning into reading, and are you getting better at it, or is that something that you struggle with the time element?
I love reading because I just feel like in my day to day, I love life. I love what I do. But at the same time, everybody needs an escape. So when I read, that's kind of how I take myself out of reality for a little bit. I also just think that words are beautiful and I love reading. And it's always something I've enjoyed. And as I get older, I enjoy it even more just because it's my escape. So it's never been a struggle for me. Now, a time limit, once I get going on a good book, putting it down is difficult,
Yeah.
but I don't think that's a bad thing because it's not like it's TikTok. I'm just reading.
No, that is so good.
Yeah.
What would you say is in supporting Susan and keeping her focused?
Mm.
What's the hardest thing that you found in supporting and helping her stay focused that you can share with our community?
Yeah. Susan is incredible, and she always says yes to everyone. I have had to learn to keep up. The pace in which we work is incredibly fast. I love it. It's like a race every day. But that's been the biggest struggle. Like Susan, she probably mentioned when we were at the Rotary meeting, Susan needs me to schedule everything because I have banned her from her calendar because she says yes to everything. So, she might have 18 meetings on Tuesday at noon. And and I've got to reel her in. I'm like, Susan, okay, stop.
Mhm.
So that's been the biggest struggle, which isn't even a bad thing.
Yeah.
It's just we got to learn to keep up, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, I've seen patterns that people that really serve
Yeah.
have a difficult time saying no.
Mhm.
So if it's easy to get overwhelmed with the yeses, do you struggle with that saying no to things, or have you gotten to the point where you're pretty good at it versus before you started?
I am very good at saying no, and I wasn't before, but now that I'm saying no to things on behalf of myself and sometimes on behalf of Susan, you get really good at it. It's just one
Mhm.
of those things that the more you do it, you realize saying no isn't ruining somebody else's life. It's not the end of the world. So saying no sometimes is still difficult, but not really a problem for me.
Mm. That is something that I see consistent patterns because I'll ask certain things, and it's very much I can do it, I can do it, I can do
Yeah.
it, and it's just like we can only do so much, and
Mm.
doing those bigger items that we call the bigger rocks, if we don't protect the higher priority things, it's really easy to all of a sudden get overwhelmed. And then when
Yeah.
we get overwhelmed, we can get burned out because we're falling into that yes to everything and so forth. What would you say if you're advising somebody your age,
Mm.
what you've learned since you started with Rescuing Hope? What would you share with them that has fulfilled your journey that you might say to somebody that's not in a position like you are in serving at such a high capacity?
Nothing means anything unless you're doing it for somebody else.
Mm,
That is really what I believe. I mean, money means more when you're doing something with it. Your time means more when you're doing something with it. Everything has meaning when there are intentions behind your actions. So, to somebody my age, I would say slow down. I know I just talked about how fast we work. but at the same time, slow your mind down, set intentions, and try to be present in everything you do. And you will notice that even doing the dishes feels a little fulfilling when
Mm,
you really just slow down and you acknowledge, I'm doing something, I've completed this.
yeah, so good. Technology's moving our society really
Yeah.
fast. AI is changing everything.
Mm.
I always say, like, or not always, but I say life teaches us lessons. But, we people like myself, we have more life lessons, but the change of society now with AI is really making it go fast. How are you balancing learning AI and using AI with just the pace of change that's coming? Are you Do you have anything that you could share with our, just our rapidly changing world that Haley's doing that's preparing you for the change it's coming up?
Um, I'm not doing anything special. AI is so interesting to me. It's equally as exciting as it is terrifying. Um, I personally will only use it to check my grammar and punctuations when I'm sending emails. But you go on social media and you see all these videos, and then you just see in tiny little font content generated by AI. I don't even know how to do that stuff with AI, nor do I want to. So while I am using it for certain things, like, just checking my grammar and maybe rewriting a sentence here and there, or changing the format of an email. Um, I'm not learning AI. I don't care to. I don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, why am I going to let a robot do what I can take 5 extra minutes to do myself? I'm not doing. I'm not.
I love, it's funny because my partner is up in Canada, and this
Mm,
was about 3.5, 4 years ago. I said the same thing. And
mm,
then I was kind of like, I don't know, I'm being dyslexic, writing was never kind of an easy thing for me. And
mm,
then I did my first course. This was 3.5 years ago.
mhm.
I said, well, he kept saying, how are you using it, Pete? And he just kept pushing me and priding me. So I said, well, let me just try it. So I did. And I said, give me the structure of this course with this. And all of a sudden, it gave me a framework. I literally almost fell out of my chair. It took me like years to do in my pace of things. And then I started, leaning into it a little bit more. But
Yeah.
I was the kind of person, like, I don't even like going online, like, just
Yeah.
just because it's harder for me to do certain things. But
Mhm.
it just kind of opened my eye, and now I have a few people I watch and listen to because I trust them, and it's just amazing how just what you shared. It's almost like it was a flashback to what I was had that conversation with them over and over again.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, when you look at this year, what is Haley most excited about that you could share with us?
Well, this year, I am extremely excited for, funny enough, the Rescuing Hope Gala. So last year was my first,
Mhm.
and in the role that I have at Rescuing Hope, a lot of what we do for that gala is my responsibility, and I loved seeing everything come together and being able to show off a little bit, like, this is my baby. So this year, since it's my second gala,
Yeah,
I'm going in with a lot more confidence than last year, and I'm really, really excited to share that with everyone again and for everyone to see my hard work gonna pay off.
I love that. I have a friend that she was saying similar. This was the second year of their major event, and
Yeah.
she said the same thing. I'm looking forward because you learn the first year, and then
Mhm.
all of a sudden you step into it with so much more awareness of
Yeah.
how it flows and all. So tell us a little bit more. Tell our viewers more about the gala. That if somebody wants to know more about what y'all are doing and the gala, give us a little information about it.
Yeah, so it's August 22nd this year. It is at the Cobb Convention Center, which was formerly the Cobb Galleria. So we call it an evening of hope. So it's really just a night where we come together as, the staff, supporters, and we just highlight what we have done in the year since the previous gala. This year, we're focusing a lot on raising funds for our medical training so we can train medical professionals on how to better identify indicators of sex trafficking and how to speak to a potential victim of trafficking. So that's what we're going to focus a lot on this year. But it's a really fun night. We do a live auction, a silent auction. We have super awesome guest speakers that come. For more information on that, you can go to the Rescuing Hope website. It is so easy, rescuinghope.com. Tickets are not for sale yet, but if anybody is interested in purchasing a table or becoming a sponsor or just wants any more info in general, my email, super easy. It is just haley@rescuinghope.com, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. That is so good. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
I have one more question after this,
Yeah.
but tell our viewers, like, if they want to know more about what you do and help and support, how would they get a hold of Haley?
Yeah, same thing. My email. It's the easiest way to reach me. I am the volunteer coordinator. I also coordinate all of our interns. If anybody wants to just become an ambassador and open doors for us, that goes through me as well. So just shoot me an email. Let me know what you're interested in doing, how you want to get involved, and I can definitely work with anybody.
Oh, that's so awesome. I want to be respectful of your time because you're a person. I know we had it scheduled a few days ago or something, and you were called that, there's when they call Haley, you got to go. You
Yep.
can't say, hey, I can't go. So tell our viewers, like, what would be the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Slow down and set intentions.
That is so wise. Thank you so much, Haley. I really appreciate you spending some time with us, and thank you for being a guest on the podcast, and we appreciate you very much.
Of course, yeah.